Hey guys, if you like my videos, please like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it, thanks. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss a chilling new story when it drops. I didn't fall asleep. That's the first thing I want you to know. I wasn't dozing, I wasn't nodding off in the dead air of the security office. I was awake and very much alert when I heard the knock. 3 slow raps, solid, wooden, measured. I flinched so hard I almost spilled my coffee. It was a miracle I didn't throw it in my face. The only reason I didn't scream like a cartoon coyote was because my mouth was too dry for sound. Now a knock on a door is not inherently terrifying, even in the middle of the desert, even when you're working graveyard shift at a decommissioned research facility that smells like bleach and regret. But this knock? It came from inside the fence, inside the outer compound, and that was impossible. I sat up straighter, adjusted the camera grid on my desk monitor, and toggled through every feed. Front gate, locked. Rear service road, empty. Utility hallway, dust and a mop. No movement, nothing at all. And yet the knock had come from the main door, the only one with a little square window I've never cleaned because I'm afraid I'll see my own face in it, and somehow it won't be looking back. I rose from the chair. My back cracked like old wood as I walked across the room. I didn't feel brave, not in the slightest. I felt like a guy about to investigate the worst part of a bad movie, and I don't say that to be cute. This wasn't spooky fun. This was wrong. Another knock. I froze mid-step. That time it sounded closer. Not louder, closer. That second knock landed in my chest like a tuning fork, ringing up my ribs and behind my eyes. I don't know how that makes sense, but that's what it did. The noise was inside me. I reached the door and peered through the wire mesh window. No one, just desert. Sand and stars and the rusted bones of forgotten fencing. I opened the door anyway. I wish I could tell you I resisted, but curiosity makes morons of us all. Outside, the night had teeth. Cold bit into my neck even through my hoodie. I stepped out onto the concrete landing and looked left, then right. "Anyone there?" I called out, trying to sound like a person who paid taxes and deserved answers. No answer. I waited. Still nothing. I went back inside, locked the door, and muttered something about coyotes or wind gusts, or maybe just echoes bouncing off the metal siding. I even laughed once, just to pretend I still could. Then I poured myself another cup of security office tar that passes for coffee and returned to my station. I checked the cameras again, all blank, all still, all lies. 2:17 a.m. knock, knock, knock. This time my heart didn't just skip, it tried to claw its way through my throat and escape. I didn't move, I didn't even blink. I just sat there, gripping my mug like a holy relic, staring at the door. Then I heard them, voices, small, fragile, just outside. "Please, let us in." 2 voices, a girl and a boy, children, but they didn't sound scared. They didn't sound anything at all, just empty, measured, like they were reciting a line from a play I hadn't agreed to be part of. I didn't answer. I didn't move. Eventually, the voices stopped. Just stopped. And I sat there until dawn, swearing to myself that if I lived long enough to see the sun, I'd find another job. Spoiler alert, I didn't. The first rule of working night shift alone in the middle of nowhere is don't trust your memory. It's a slippery little thing, especially around 3 a.m. when time and reality start to melt together like cheap wax. Still, I was sure about one thing. I heard those kids. I didn't dream them up. I didn't hallucinate them. I didn't conjure them from too many cups of coffee and not enough vitamin D. They were real, or at least something was, and yet the cameras said otherwise. I pulled the footage, watched it frame by frame. From 1:59 a.m. to 2:30 a.m., the screen showed exactly what you'd expect from a god-forsaken desert outpost. Nothing. Static dust on the wind, dead silence, my own dumb face sitting at the console like a night watchman at a wax museum. No shadows, no movement, no children. I rewound again, slower this time. Still nothing. I even checked the thermal feed, and that's where it got interesting. See, thermal cameras don't lie. Not unless they're broken, which, according to the maintenance log taped to my wall with chewing gum and despair, ours wasn't. But when I looked at the thermal playback, I noticed something weird. No heat signature by the door, no wildlife, no stray coyotes or jackrabbits, not even my own body heat registered when I opened the door, which means either the camera was broken after all, or I wasn't the only one who didn't show up. Naturally, I did the smart thing. I blamed everything on a busted camera and cracked open a room-temperature energy drink. I wasn't about to start believing in ghosts just because my equipment wasn't cooperating. Still, just in case, I aimed one of the floodlights directly at the front entrance and left it on a motion sensor. If something approached tonight, I'd see it in glorious, retina-scorching LED. That night, I counted the minutes. 1:45 a.m., nothing. 1:55 a.m., still nothing. 2 a.m., silence. 2:05 a.m., no knocking, no voices. No reason for my spine to feel like it was being iced over from the inside out. I stood up and walked to the door anyway, just to look. And there they were, 2 kids standing just outside the pool of light. I couldn't see their faces, just the silhouettes. A little boy and a girl, motionless, not swaying, not shuffling, just waiting, like statues carved from moonlight. I blinked. They were gone. I opened the door, looked both ways. Empty desert, no footprints in the dirt, no rustling in the brush. Even the wind had stopped. I slammed the door and bolted it. This time I locked it. I'm not ashamed to admit my hands were shaking. You'd think a grown man, former Army dropout and failed private investigator turned night watchman, wouldn't get spooked by a couple of kids playing peekaboo. But that's just it. Kids don't move like that. They don't vanish like a switch being flipped. And something about them just standing there, just waiting, made my gut twist into origami. Back at my desk, I checked the cameras again. Nothing. Not even their shadows. Just me, frozen in frame, staring at a door that shouldn't have been knocked on, by voices that shouldn't have known I was there. I turned off the monitors, sat down, didn't speak, didn't move. I told myself I'd get through the shift. Just one more night. They always say that in stories like this, don't they? I didn't want to come back. Let's get that straight. After the second night, I swore to myself that I was going to march into HQ, slap my keycard on my supervisor's desk and say, I'd rather dig ditches in the sun with my teeth than spend another night with ghost kids who can teleport. But reality doesn't care about your dramatic exits. My car wouldn't start. My bank account had less than a lunchbox worth of money. And the temp agency that sent me out here ghosted me harder than the kids outside my door. So I came back, like an idiot. Like the last guy in a horror movie who says, I'll check the basement. The only difference is, I brought a crowbar with me this time. Not because I thought I could fend off spectral children with plumbing equipment, but because it made me feel better. Like I could crack open whatever weirdness was hiding in the corners. The night was dead silent again. So quiet I could hear my own heartbeat echo in the walls. 1:30 a.m., I triple-checked the cameras. 1:50 a.m., I locked every door. 1:59 a.m., I whispered to myself, maybe they're done, maybe they were just lost. 2 a.m., knock, knock, knock. I sat very still, like a T-Rex was outside and I could fool it by not moving. Then the voice came, soft, deliberate. Let us in, Aaron. I blinked. Did I hear that right? Please, Aaron, we're cold. And let me tell you, hearing your name spoken by something you can't see does something to your brain. It short-circuits the part of you that believes you're still in control. I dropped the crowbar, not out of fear, out of sheer confusion. How did they know my name? I didn't wear a name tag. I'd never said it out loud. There's no record of me on the wall, no badge on the desk, just security temp rotation written in Sharpie. The camera showed nothing. The mic, dead static. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then a second voice, higher this time. A girl. Please, Aaron, we'll be good, we promise. You'd think a voice like that would sound innocent, childlike, but it wasn't. It was perfect, too perfect. As if someone had studied what a child should sound like and then programmed it into a robot trying to pass the first round of America's Got Demons. I didn't answer, but my name echoed again, over and over. Aaron! 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 I turned on the facility's external speakers and shouted into the mic, Who are you? Silence. Then, You know us. I did not, and yet the longer I sat there, the more I started to question that. Was there a part of me, some forgotten shard, that did know them? Had I seen those faces in a childhood nightmare, some campfire story I blocked out and filed under never think about again? I opened the drawer at my station and pulled out the emergency manual. Not that it had a chapter labeled "What to Do When Demonic Children Use Your Name," but it gave me something to read while I tried not to lose my mind. Eventually, the voices faded. I waited until 3 a.m., just in case. Then I made another cup of that gut-melting coffee and sat in silence until the sun came up. When the shift ended, I stepped outside and stared at the empty desert. Felt the heat start to rise from the sand. No footprints, no signs of life, just the echo of my name still ringing in my ears. The next night, I went full bunker mode, screwed a steel sheet over the front entrance, rewired the locks so they wouldn't disengage at shift change, and wedged a chair under the doorknob like some horror movie cliché I used to laugh at. I wasn't laughing now. I even turned off the lights in the break room and moved my desk into the small security closet, less windows, less ways in. My little panic palace. It smelled like old mop water and burnt plastic. But hey, you don't get to be picky when you're hiding from supernatural toddlers. I also did something I swore I'd never do again. I called the base. Now, the main base is 50 miles south and staffed by a group of retirees and interns who think spending their nights in a defunct government compound is a fun retirement project. The signal is usually decent, except tonight, of course. I pressed the radio, static, tried the landline, dial tone, then silence. The moment the clock ticked to 1:59 a.m., all communication cut out like someone yanked the wires straight from the sky. Perfect. Still, I told myself it was okay. I was sealed in. They couldn't get in, right? 2 a.m. no knock, just silence. For 5 whole minutes I thought maybe they gave up. Maybe they went off to haunt a Walmart or a ghost tour in Nevada. Then I heard it, footsteps inside. Not creaking, not shuffling, just that soft tap, tap, tap of bare feet on linoleum. I froze. Every hair on my body stood up like I'd been dunked in electricity. My brain screamed, "Check the cameras." But the feed was dead. Every screen in the security room showed black. No static, no signal message, just void. I picked up the crowbar again, though at this point it felt more like a good luck charm than a weapon. I crept out of the security closet, slow as molasses, ears straining for any clue about where the footsteps were coming from. Tap, tap, tap. They were moving away from me, toward the east hallway, the break room, the only room I didn't lock. I tiptoed through the dark, holding my breath. The hallway stretched out like a tunnel in a nightmare, longer than it should have been. Lights flickered overhead like they were trying to warn me. I reached the break room door, closed. I put my ear to it. Silence. Then, click, the sound of the microwave door opening. I flung the door open, crowbar raised. Nothing, no kids, no voices. But the microwave was wide open, and on the wall beside it, drawn in what looked like ash or soot, was a crude outline. A stick figure, 2 dots for eyes, black, pitch black. It looked like a child's drawing, of me. I closed the microwave slowly, backed out of the room like it was a tiger cage. I checked every entrance, every vent, every hallway, still locked, still sealed. So how were they inside? The facility was airtight, secure. I'd made sure of it, and yet the air was freezing. My breath came out in puffs. A chill had settled into the concrete, and no matter how many times I checked the thermostat, it still claimed it was 82 degrees. That was the moment I stopped pretending I was just tired, or losing it. They were inside. There's something about fear that distorts time. I'm sure I only stood there in that hallway for a few seconds, but it felt like hours. Just me, the open microwave door, and that awful little drawing staring back at me like a threat disguised as a preschool art project. Eventually, I backed away, crowbar held tight in my sweaty hand, and I did what anyone in my position would have done. I ran, not fast, not heroic, just that weird half-jog, half-speed walk you do when your brain's screaming, "Go, go now," but your legs haven't caught up to the panic. I beelined it to the main entrance and threw open the inner panel to check the lock. Still bolted, still chained, still shut tighter than a miser's wallet. No sign of entry, No sign of anything, not that I expected one at this point. I'd already accepted that these things didn't use doors. Still, it felt good to check, gave me a sliver of illusion, like I had control. That's when I saw the reflection in the wire glass window, two of them standing behind me. I spun so fast I nearly tripped over my own feet. Empty. The hallway was clear, the air still cold, my heart doing the samba in my chest. I backed against the door and looked through the window again, just to be sure I hadn't imagined it. And that's when I saw them. For real this time. Across the compound, just beyond the circle of light from the security lamp, they stood shoulder to shoulder, motionless. A boy. A girl. Both barefoot. Skin like wax. Faces angled slightly downward like they'd been scolded. But it was their eyes that did it. Two endless voids. Not pupils, not even orbs. Just black. Like someone had scooped out their eyes and poured in ink. I've seen things in my life. I've worked in places that had more conspiracy theories than furniture. I once tackled a guy who swore the vending machine was trying to steal his soul through microwave burritos. But I had never felt the kind of primal bone-deep dread I felt looking into those eyes. I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. I wanted to be 5 years old again and crawl under a blanket where monsters couldn't follow. But I couldn't move. The boy lifted his head. The girl tilted hers. And though I couldn't hear them, though the glass and the walls should have blocked any sound, I felt their voices in my head. "Aaron, let us in." I turned and stumbled back into the security room, my pulse like a jackhammer against my ribs. I needed proof, something, anything to show someone, anyone, that I wasn't just losing my mind. I brought up the live camera feed. Nothing, just sand, floodlights, empty frames. I flipped to the infrared. Still nothing, and yet I saw them. I saw them with my own eyes. I looked down at the feed timestamp. It blinked erratically, then froze at 2:17 a.m. That same time, every night. I turned the monitor off. Didn't want to see my own reflection in it. Didn't want to see if they were standing behind me again. I huddled into the security chair and held the crowbar like it was a teddy bear from hell. Eventually, the sun came up. My shift ended. I stepped out into the golden heat of morning, blinking like a man surfacing from a coma. I could hear birds again. The wind was warm. The world was real. I sat on the loading dock and chain smoked until my lungs gave out. Then I picked up my phone, ready to call in and say I quit. But before I could dial, I got a text from my boss. "Back again tonight? We're short-handed. No one else available. You're our guy." I stared at it for a long time. I didn't answer, but I showed up anyway. Because when you're already in hell, what's one more night? I showed up for my next shift carrying two things I'd never brought before. 1, a flask. 2, a Bible I stole from the glove box of my deadbeat cousin's car. I don't drink, and I sure as hell don't read scripture, but I figured if these little monsters didn't care about security doors or cameras, maybe they'd respect a desperate man waving outdated holy text and reeking of cheap rum. It wasn't a great plan, but it was a plan. I arrived early, just before sunset, hoping that maybe daylight would bleach the fear out of the walls. It didn't. The place felt worse. The air was stale, like it had been held too long in someone's lungs. The lights flickered more than usual. The walls seemed tighter, the shadows too thick. I stepped into the security room and froze. Something was waiting for me. A piece of paper, crisp, white, sitting dead center on my console like a love note from the void. It hadn't been there when I left that morning. I triple-checked. I don't leave food wrappers behind, let alone mysterious unsolicited memos. There was no header, no logo, no ink smudges, just 5 perfectly typed lines in jet black text. Rules for survival. 1. Do not open the door. 2. Do not answer any questions. 3. Do not say yes. 4. Do not look them in the eyes. 5. Do not speak your name aloud. I read them once, then again, then a third time just to be sure I wasn't hallucinating. A rational person might have run, called the cops, burned the whole facility down and blamed it on a gas leak. I taped the rules to the wall because deep down I knew I needed them. And not 5 minutes later, the clock struck 1:59 a.m. The wind stopped. The air thickened, and a slow chill crept under the door like spilled mercury. 2 a.m. The knock came again, 3 raps. But this time it wasn't followed by voices. It was followed by silence, which was somehow worse. Then, a minute later, they started chanting. Soft, rhythmic, "Let us in, let us in, let us in." It wasn't pleading, it wasn't aggressive, it was mechanical, like they were winding up, like the words themselves were part of a ritual they didn't fully understand, but knew they had to perform. I shut off the lights, slid down the wall, covered my ears. The chanting kept going. "Let us in, let us in, let us in." I remembered the first rule. Do not open the door. Simple enough, but then came the voice. Soft, innocent, too innocent. "Aaron, are you there?" I froze. Rule 5, don't speak your name aloud. But what if they say it? "Aaron, we're scared, please. You said you'd help us." No, I didn't. I never said that. "Don't leave us out here. It hurts, Aaron. It hurts so much." The voice broke just a little, like a bad actor in a high school play, trying to sound human, trying too hard. I clutched the Bible in one hand, the crowbar in the other, and pressed my back against the cold steel door. "Aaron, say yes." I bit my tongue. No response, no engagement, no eye contact. The paper on the wall fluttered once, like something brushed past it. The chant picked up again, slower this time, almost taunting. "Let us in, let us in, let us in." I sat like that until dawn, muscles stiff, throat dry. When the sun finally spilled over the horizon, the chanting stopped, the air warmed, and just before the lights fully returned, a child's voice whispered from the far side of the door, "You broke a rule." I didn't remember breaking any rules. I replayed the whole night in my head like some sleep-deprived security footage. I hadn't spoken. I hadn't opened the door. I definitely didn't say yes. But that last whisper chilled me worse than the others. You broke a rule. Which one? I hadn't spoken my name out loud. They had. Was that it? Were they playing by genie rules? Did hearing your name count the same as saying it? Fantastic. I was being gaslit by paranormal logic puzzles in size 4 sneakers. That night I arrived early again, earlier than usual, and scoured every inch of the facility. I duct-taped every vent, blocked off the stairwell to the old records room, and even stuffed towels under the door cracks like I was hiding from a smoke demon. I unplugged the vending machine, not because I thought they were hiding in it, though I wouldn't have put it past them, but because it kept blinking 4 a.m. on its little digital display. It was stuck there, mocking me. Time had turned into a joke. And then I found it. In the break room, behind the vending machine, smeared across the wall in what I prayed was red crayon, 4. Just that. One word, written twice. Once high, once low, like 2 different kids left their mark. I stared at it for a full minute before realizing what it meant. I'd seen 2 children the first night, 2 the second night, still 2 when they called my name. But now, there were 4. I didn't see them arrive. I never saw any of them arrive, but I knew it in my gut, like the way you know you're not alone in a dark room. 2 a.m. came fast. The first knock was lighter than before, less like a knock and more like a finger dragging slowly across the door. Then another, then another, then 4 knocks. No chanting this time, no pleading, just a silence that made my ears ring. I flicked on the exterior floodlights and looked at the monitors. 4 children, perfectly spaced, standing just beyond the light, close enough to see, far enough to stay shadowed. And one of them smiled, not like a child smiles, not with joy or mischief or warmth. It was a smile that knew things, like it had been wearing faces longer than I'd been alive. I don't know why I did it, but I whispered, "What do you want?" Every monitor flickered. Then all 4 screens filled with a single image, my face, sleeping, lying on a cot I didn't own, wearing clothes I didn't wear, but it was me, dead asleep, on screen, eyes twitching like I was dreaming. I stumbled backward, heart rattling in my chest like loose coins in a vending machine. Then the lights went out, just like that. The only illumination left came from the red exit sign above the front door, and the microwave display which now blinked. 4 a.m. I hadn't seen the time change. I hadn't moved. I stood in the dark, breathing through my teeth when I heard it, a light tap on the break room window. I turned my head slowly, and there, inches away, a face stared back at me. No nose, no features, just black pits for eyes. It didn't blink, didn't move. It didn't have to, because now it knew I saw it, and seeing them might be the worst rule to break of all. I don't remember moving. 1 second, I was frozen in the break room, watching that blank-eyed face press against the window like a dog at a butcher shop. The next, I was sprinting down the hallway with the crowbar clenched so tight in my hand, I could feel the metal etching into my palm. I didn't care. Pain meant I was still me, still alive, still not one of them. I slammed the door to the control room and twisted the manual lock 3 times, left, right, left, like it would matter, like it ever had. The lights overhead were out, the monitors all blank. Except one, Cam 3, Archive Hall. It showed me hunched over the desk, sleeping. Again, same blue hoodie, same stupid drool spot on the collar. I was watching myself sleep. And no, I hadn't fallen asleep. I didn't even sit down. I was standing, awake, panicking. My knees ached, my teeth itched. I was present. So what the hell was I watching? My own dream? A future I wasn't supposed to survive? A copy? The screen glitched, flickered once, and then static. Except it wasn't white noise. It was pitch black, every pixel void. Then came the sound. It wasn't a scream, it was beneath a scream, like a scream gagged, wrapped in wet cloth, and broadcast through broken bones. The speakers hissed with it, the kind of static that made your spine knot up like a rope in cold water. Then something else. Voices. Overlapping. Layered. They didn't chant this time. They whispered in perfect clarity, "You let us in." "No," I said out loud, suddenly unsure of my own mouth. "No, I didn't. I didn't open anything." "You looked." I backed away from the monitors. The crowbar felt like paper in my hand now. The screens began to flicker images again, of the children, one by one, smiling. But it wasn't like before. Their faces were melting at the edges, pixelated, wrong. Their eyes spread, enlarged until the entire screen was filled with black. Then the console in front of me lit up with one final message. Access granted. Somewhere deep inside the facility, a bolt released. I felt it, that old mechanical thunk of a lock disengaging. The main door, the one I'd welded shut, the one no one had touched in days. I ran like my bones were on fire, like I could outrun whatever digital curse had just loosed itself. I made it to the security override panel, hit every emergency switch I could find. The compound groaned, systems flashing red. A metallic scream echoed through the vents as power surged and doors slammed. The lights cut out, total blackout, but I could still hear them. Soft bare feet against tile, near, getting nearer, and worse. They were humming, no, not humming, purring, like something pleased, something that had finally gotten what it wanted. I turned on the flashlight on my phone. The hallway was empty, but on the far wall in ash, one of us now. I turned and ran, not even pretending to be brave anymore, back to the control room, slammed the door, locked it. Then I sat in the corner, hugging that stupid Bible like it owed me money, and waited. Not for them to leave, but for the night to end. Eventually, it did. The sun rose, the lights came back on, the monitors returned to normal, but the override panel still blinked red, and in the corner of the screen, in the smallest font imaginable, access remains open. I didn't leave when the sun came up. I didn't even move, just sat there on the cold linoleum floor of the security room, knees pulled up to my chest like a man waiting out a hurricane that had already blown the house away. Eventually, the power fully stabilized. The monitors stopped glitching. The air warmed again. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had stayed behind, that I hadn't just let something in. I'd unlocked something that didn't plan on leaving. At 8 a.m., I finally stood up. My knees cracked, my spine screamed, my head felt like it was packed with wet cotton. I stepped outside into the sun and blinked at the brightness like I'd forgotten what real light looked like. I should have walked away right then. Left the compound, hiked the 5 miles to the service road, and thumbed a ride to anywhere but here. But I didn't. Why? Because I knew it wasn't over. Because every instinct I had, what was left of them, told me they weren't done with me yet. I just didn't know what the end looked like. So that night, I came back. Of course I did. This place wasn't just a haunted desert pit anymore. It was the stage, and I was the final act. I didn't drink, I didn't pray, I just waited. 1:45 a.m., I disabled the security system, every door, every lock. I let the place lie open like a corpse with its rib cage cracked wide. I wanted to see what would happen when they didn't have to knock. 2 a.m., nothing. Not a knock, not a voice, not even a flicker from the hallway lights. And then they came. Not from outside, from inside. They stepped out of shadows like they'd always been there. 4 children, 1 in each corridor. Their faces were different now, more complete, as if each night they'd borrowed bits of humanity, expressions, movements, posture, and stitched themselves together. But the eyes were still the same, black, depthless, consuming. I stood in the center of the compound, surrounded. I didn't speak, didn't move. The girl stepped forward, her mouth opened, but the voice that came out was not a child's. "We have your shape now." I didn't understand what she meant until I looked at the monitor behind me. It flickered on without power. It showed me, standing there, but not moving, not blinking, just watching, a copy, a double, my own face, but wrong, expressionless, empty. The children turned to look at the screen. All of them smiled. That was it. The final game. They hadn't come for my blood or my soul, or even my fear. They'd come to be me. I don't know how I knew that. It just clicked, like a final puzzle piece falling into place. They were replacing me. They already had. In some cosmic, incomprehensible sense, I wasn't supposed to walk out of there. So I did what I do best. I cheated. I ran to the central generator, yanked the backup power cable, and slammed the override lever. Manual lockdown. No power, no cameras, no witnesses. The entire system went dark. The children vanished like smoke in reverse. I stumbled out through the maintenance tunnel and walked across 5 miles of cold desert under a sky that refused to brighten. I made it to the road by morning, collapsed at the side of a passing ranger truck. They asked me what happened. I told them I'd had a bad shift. They nodded, didn't ask more. Smart people. That night I checked every corner of my motel room. No shadows, no voices, no knocks. But I still didn't sleep, because I knew the truth. Something had taken my place, and sooner or later, someone was going to notice. It's been 3 weeks since I left the outpost. 3 weeks of pretending that I'm fine, pretending the world's back to normal, pretending I don't flinch every time the clock hits 1:59 a.m. I live in a cheap second-floor studio now. 1 room, 1 door, no mirrors. I keep the lights on all night. Keep a crowbar beside my bed like it's a comfort animal. Haven't taken a full breath since the desert. I work day shifts now, security at a retirement home, the kind of gig where the biggest threat is a bingo riot or someone misplacing their teeth. And yet I still feel watched. It's subtle, like pressure, like being studied through a keyhole by something that isn't blinking. I tell myself it's trauma, PTSD. My therapist, who I found online and pay in Venmo, says it's my subconscious trying to process existential distortion. Sure, let's go with that. But every night at 1:59 a.m., my wall clock flickers. Just once, like it skips a beat. And sometimes there's a knock at my door. Never loud, just 3 soft taps, almost polite. Knock, knock, knock. I never answer. I sit perfectly still, holding my breath, staring at the door as if it might blink first. Once I put a chair against the doorknob. Another time I whispered, "No," to no one. And last night they said it again. Aaron. Same voice, same tone, too perfect, too rehearsed. I didn't speak. I didn't move. And after a few minutes, the air warmed again, the light stabilized. But I knew they were there, not just outside, not just in the hallway. They're in me now, just a little, like smoke in your lungs after the fire's gone out. I've seen it, in the mirror, in the way my reflection stares back a second too long, in the way my shadow sometimes moves when I don't. I don't sleep much. I keep the TV on, something loud and dumb, Infomercials, cooking shows, anything to drown out the thoughts. The dreams. Because the dreams are worse than the knocking. In them, I'm still in that compound. Only now I'm the one standing outside the door, knocking, smiling, waiting for someone to let me in. And I always whisper the same thing. You broke a rule. The worst part, each night, I get a little closer to the door, to answering it, because part of me wants to know what happens after. What happens if I say yes? What happens when the knock is answered? What happens if they finally get in? Or maybe, just maybe, one of them already did. Because the other night, I looked in the mirror and for just a second, just one breathless moment, I swear, my eyes weren't mine anymore. They were black, like oil,